And we're live, everybody. Welcome in. It is Friday, December 1st. I'm so happy to have you here. I didn't even check to see if my audio works. It does. Thank God. Welcome in. So much to talk about. I don't know if you heard. Yesterday, something pretty special was released. I was extremely fortunate. Thank you all so much. Thank you to Tesla for inviting me. I was able to make it over to the Cybertruck delivery event, and we got these cool stainless steel passes as well. I was able to get into the referral program, so thank you all for all those people out there that use my referral code. I try very hard never to mention that it exists, so don't use it, please. It's one of those things where even though we're allowed to put it out there, it's just kind of like, I don't know. I feel very fortunate to have been able to make it, and thank you all so much. And yeah, I'm just very excited to talk about the Cybertruck, and it's one of those things where there's been a lot of noise, a lot of things going on about the release of the product. It was first unveiled 4 years ago, my goodness. And we finally saw it in person yesterday. I was able to get up close and personal, touch it, feel it, see it, hear it, and it felt surreal. And now, one day later, I was able to sleep on my thoughts, and I don't know, I have a lot of things to say. So before we go ahead and we go any further, I want to give a shout out to some pretty sick reviews that have come out here in the last few hours since the event. Now that the blackout has been lifted, essentially, it's pretty common for there to be a blackout. I want to highlight a few interviews. If you haven't seen these yet, I encourage you to go see them, especially after this is done, or right now. Go watch them right now. This is from Haggerty. Haggerty is an automotive reviewer. Definitely check. I highly recommend the Cybertruck review from Haggerty. Some of the best production I've ever seen in a YouTube video, to be completely honest. There's also a follow-up discussion from the Haggerty crew. This is called the Carmudgeon Show, where they go more in depth about their thoughts about the Cybertruck. I've started listening to it. I haven't finished it yet, but thus far it's super entertaining. There's also a review from Marquez Brownlee, MKBHD, about the Cybertruck. Make sure you go check that out as well. A lot of awesome information. And then there's also a one from Top Gear as well. I haven't watched this one yet, but I've heard really good things, so make sure you go check that one out as well from Top Gear. So let's start with price. So the biggest thing that I've sort of been thinking about when it comes to the Cybertruck is I've been trying to figure out, okay, where's the pricing going to come in for this thing for the last 4 years? And we finally have the numbers. And I was way under. I was way under, and I should have known better, but it's one of those things when you're optimistic and you want something to come in where you want it, you kind of have your numbers in place. So we have the final numbers. Rear wheel drive, 60,990. This is a 250-mile range for the truck. This spec, they're saying will be available sometime in 2025. If I were a betting man, I don't think this spec comes out. If I were a betting man, but I could be 100% wrong. Then you have the all-wheel drive at 79.9. This one's supposed to start delivery sometime next year in 2024. 340 miles of range, 4.10 to 60, and a bunch of other stats as well. 11,000 pound of towing capacity. This one, what's special about these two is that they're both capable of taking advantage of the EV tax credit that's available in the United States of $7,500. And then starting in 2024 in the month, you'll be able to take that $7,500 tax credit up front. So this effectively brings down the price of the Cybertruck from $80,000 to $72,500 with a dual motor, all-wheel drive, 340-mile range, 4.10 to 60, and of course that insane look. And then you got the Cyberbeast on top of that, which starts at $100,000. This one has a little bit less range because it has additional performance, 0 to 60 in 2.6 seconds, which is freaking ridiculous. 320-mile range. It's that same 1,000-pound towing capacity. Now, the really interesting thing about the Cybertruck, which I've seen a lot of, and there was one for CarWow too, a review from CarWow. I'm so glad I saw this. Go check out the one from CarWow as well. I actually ran into the guy at the delivery event. Very nice people. So what's really interesting about the pricing strategy is that it's obviously significantly above. It's significantly above what we were first shown back in 2019. There was a $39,000 rear-wheel drive with about the same specs. A dual motor drive, I believe it was $49,000 with about the same specs. It started at 300 miles. This one's 340, but it's about $20,000 $30,000 more expensive, right? Yeah, $30,000 more expensive. And then you had their top of the line one, which was coming in at 70 at 69, and that one actually came in at 99. Again, $30,000 more expensive. So there was obviously a huge jump from where we were 4 years ago. There's been a lot of discussion about why this is the case. I had a panel with the guys from Now You Know at the Cyber After Party after the event. I hope I was able to try to shake as many hands as I could. I was super honored and privileged to be in front of everybody there talking and meeting all you guys. So thank you so much for coming up and saying hi. That was super cool. And I was talking with the Now You Know guys, Zach and Jesse. And I think that where the pricing is today is indicative of two things. Number one, I think it's obvious that inflation has taken a toll. Clearly, there is a lot more technology in the truck that is causing the price the cost to be significantly higher. There's also a variable of demand as well. Tesla knows that they can charge whatever they want, essentially, at least for the first year or two for this vehicle. And I think we've seen it reflected in the price. But I think the other side of it is that I believe it seems like, and I spoke to a lot of people about this yesterday, and so this is not an original thought, but it's sort of through discussion and kind of trying to figure out what's going on here. The targets Tesla had, I think, especially for the 4680, which is the battery that they're using for the Cybertruck, although it's great technology and is obviously working, I don't think they're where they want it to be by now. I think by now they expected it to be perhaps 20 to 30% more energy dense, which would allow the battery to have more range for the size, and it will also allow them to have even more cost savings because of that, essentially, because you have the efficiencies built into the processing and all that good stuff, the manufacturing the batteries. And so I think all those things have come together for us to land at this kind of pricing. So it's a combination of ridiculous demand, new technology, inflation, and I don't think Tesla's where they want to be with the 4680. I'm not saying that's good or bad. It's just where we are in reality. Tesla missing their goals on 4680 obviously is not great. It's not a good, that one is bad. But luckily for the product, they have the demand. And based on all the reviews that have been coming out thus far today, especially the ones from Haggerty and MKBHD, CarWow, the Top Gear one seemed pretty positive just from the things that I've been hearing. From a product perspective, they completely hit it out of the park. Like, it seems like this thing is gonna frickin' take the world by storm, as a lot of people predicted in the Tesla community. And now we're going to start seeing those being reflected in reviews and from people's real life experiences. Now, the other interesting thing that Tesla has done, and as you're watching this, we're going to do a Q&A at the end. So make sure you drop your questions below and type question before your question, so it's easy for me to see it in all caps. It would be great if you could do that for me. Thank you. The other very interesting thing about Tesla's strategy is that they've introduced this extended range. What the hell did I just do? Oh my God. It's like I don't know what I'm doing sometimes, eh? I don't know what I'm doing all the time. They introduced this range extender, which is essentially an accessory that you can purchase with the Cybertruck that is installed at the factory that adds about 130 miles of range. And this is what it looks like. This is a picture of it, the Cybertruck range extender that will enable up to 470 miles of range. What it basically goes in the truck bed. It takes up about a third of the usual space. Tesla says that it's about the size of your standard, or like a toolbox that you would usually install in a bed. To me, it looks a little bit deeper than that, so it's eating into it more than, say, your typical toolbox does. But the cool thing is that it adds another 130 miles of range. Based on some of the data that's out there, I don't think this is official, but it seems like or it is official. Somebody tell me in the comments. I haven't been able to figure that out. Seems like this is going to be about $16,000, $16,000 to add another essentially 130 miles of range. And so from a range perspective, one of the things I've been seeing is that, when Tesla initially unveiled the Cybertruck back in 2019, they had the top spec model was going to be 500 plus miles of range. And now we're living in a world where you could get close to that 500 miles, 470 miles, which is, for my use case, is way more than enough. But I'm curious to see how other people will react to this as I talk to them and we kind of get their opinions. We have a 470 mile range Cybertruck, but it's going to cost significantly more than the original $69,000 that Tesla promised back in 2019 during that time. So what I've done to try and understand how this shakes out with the rest of the market, specifically from a cost perspective, is that I've done my usual spreadsheet here where I try to take every single truck EV in the market in the United States, and I basically put them from cheapest to most expensive, net the EV tax credit, and I've included the actual specs from the Cybertruck. So we have the Cybertruck rear-wheel drive, the all-wheel drive with the extended range, which is that accessory on top of it, the Cyberbeast, which is the $100,000 truck, and then the Cyberbeast with the extended battery. And what's interesting is when we're looking at the pricing, the rear-wheel drive one, I almost want to like forget about for now, because I just, my bet is that I don't think we'll ever see that truck. But again, I could be 100% wrong. With the all-wheel drive, with the EV tax credit of 72.4, it lands pretty closely with vehicles that are already out there now from a specs perspective. If you're just looking at range and acceleration and feature set and things like that. The only outlier here is the Silverado EV 4WT, which is a truck that Chevy has unveiled, but they haven't released quite yet. They've delayed the release of this, and I think we have a clue why now. They initially wanted this thing out at $79,800. That's the price they came out with 450 miles of range. And if you compare that to the Cybertruck dual motor at $79,900 with 340 miles of range, the Chevy Silverado in this case can offer a car that's the same price with 100 more miles, essentially of range, but you don't get what the Cybertruck gives you as far as, you know, the exoskeleton and the performance, especially, and some of the accessories that you can put on top of the truck and all that stuff. So there is sort of like you're making a trade between how much you want to pay and what you get. However, what kind of changes the equation a little bit is because Tesla is now able to offer this extended range version, which again takes the price significantly higher versus where Tesla said they were going to be back in 2019, you can still buy a Tesla Cybertruck with close to 500 miles of range, 470 miles of range, but you'll come in at 88.4 instead of the 69, and you're not going to get as much performance, but you'll get almost as much range. Now, 88.4, the way I arrived to that price is you take the EV tax credit on the 80,000. So you start at $80,000. You take an EV tax credit of 7,200, so it gets you down to 72 or 7,500. So you get down to 72.5, and then if you add the extended range accessory of 16,000, which you have to get installed at the factory, by the way, is something that we've learned. You can either get it from the factory with the extended range or have it as a retrofit after you buy the Cybertruck. You go from 72.5, you add 16, you go all the way up to 88. And so that's how you arrive to that price. And then from that perspective, if you look at the most range, Tesla Cybertruck will have the truck with the most range out of any truck out there today, or any ones that are promised by let's say Chevy, in this case GM, with the Silverado 4WT. So Tesla can make the claim that they'll have the highest range pickup truck on the market, but it's going to cost you. It's going to be expensive. 88.4, okay? And then the Cyberbeast is just bananas, $100,000 for the Cyberbeast, and then if you want the extended range is basically 116,000, because anything over 80,000 doesn't get the EV tax credit. Now, what I've also done is I've taken all those different things we just talked about, which is price and range, and I've put them on this dot plot, which I've done for the Model 3 and the Model Y. And the goal here is to understand where Tesla's offering is falling versus the competition. The x-axis is the price, so how much the car costs for somebody to purchase, net the EV tax credit, so after you take the EV tax credit accounted in the price. And then range is the range from that vehicle. And the dots in red are where the Teslas are falling as far as how we're looking at their price to range relationship. The purple line is the average for the market given those cars. So if, let's say, a truck lands in that line, it means that that truck is basically at the average level of price or range for that market. So in this case, the F-150 Lightning Lariat Lariat, whatever you want to call it. It's about 70,000-ish after the EV tax credit, with about 320 miles of range, let's say. And so for that price, that truck is getting about the expected range. And so any trucks above that line are above average. Any trucks below that line are below average, given the range you get for the price. Now, what's interesting here is that Tesla's all-wheel drive, for the price of about 72.5, is slightly above average what you would get in range for that price market, essentially. The Tesla Cybertruck all-wheel drive with the extended range is significantly above what the typical market will give you from a range perspective, but it's significantly more expensive. It's $88,000. And then you can see that Cyberbeast, and when it comes to the relationship of price and range, it's significantly below the average what people will usually pay for the range of that truck versus the price, right? This is just a comparison of range versus price. But the bigger takeaway here is that let's just assume the Chevy Silverado EV work truck is actually coming out. I have my doubts now since they delayed the program, and GM has been, we're not really sure about the REV stuff. We'll see what happens there. The Cybertruck all-wheel drive extended range is clearly an outlier, so it has significantly more range than the rest. And then the Cyberbeast, from a price perspective versus range, is also an outlier on the other side. So that kind of buyer has to make a decision: am I going to pay a premium for the acceleration at the expense of range? And then the extended, what's interesting is that once you take into account the extended Cyberbeast and you add that $16,000 option, the Cyberbeast goes up to being an average truck for the money, but you're paying $116,000. So if you have $116,000, the Cyberbeast is a fantastic deal. If you don't have $116,000, no Cyberbeast for you with extended range. So it's interesting to look at. We're still early days. Obviously, the truck isn't even out for 24 hours, or I guess technically it's been out for about 24 hours. And over time, I very much expect the prices to come down significantly. If you look at the rest of the Tesla lineup, you can see, this camera has been on? I just realized my other camera has been on for days for some reason. Sorry. If we look at the rest of Tesla's lineup, we can see that the pricing for all their vehicles has come down dramatically over time. The Model S, the Model X, the 3, and the Y, especially since COVID, they've been in a consistent downtrend. Now, I think that the big thing here is, how is 4680 going to progress, and how quickly is Tesla going to be able to bring down the price over time? How much will demand influence how quickly they can bring down the price? If a lot of people want this truck at $80,000 for a dual motor, they're not going to drop down the price anytime soon, because if they drop down the price, they're just going to increase wait times, which is not something that Tesla wants to do. They're just going to sell it at what the market is demanding for that product. And so if there's less demand than they think, then we'll see those price decreases come sooner. But I fully expect Tesla over time, if I were to make a prediction in the next couple of years, I still feel like that 60 to 70,000 dual motor with about 350 miles of range, and maybe a lower spec one that's still dual motor with maybe a little bit less range, could be a possibility. But clearly, from what we've seen so far from the company, at least from the get-go, they're trying to position this truck as a halo vehicle. They're trying to position it as something that's going to, it's just there to blow your mind. It's like the new Plaid. I had Hans Nelson staying with me for the last couple of days. We were talking about this morning, is that this is very clearly Tesla's new halo vehicle, meaning that it's going to be like the thing that people look at and be like, whoa, what is that? And like, price is almost not a factor. It's like the way they're kind of marketing this product. But over time, we'll see if we can see Tesla's prices come down, which I fully expect they will. But the question is how long? And then if we layer in the potential for full self-driving, if we layer in the potential of lowering labor costs and manufacturing costs through the bot and automation and artificial intelligence, could that have an impact? So there's a lot of variables with the story. But as far as a product goes, seeing it firsthand, I want it so bad. I personally want it so bad. Should it be a secret for people that have been following this channel closely? Now, the question is going to be, who else wants that product? And how is that going to dictate how the company is going to think about price so that it becomes more affordable? And hopefully they get closer to the prices from 2019. So let's go ahead and take some questions. I'll be on for a while here. Write question before your question, and we'll go ahead and hit a bunch of them. So let's go start with Mimi. Mimi, how's it going? Welcome in. Isn't it strange that it says delivery in 2024 on the website? I don't know why I would say, I don't know why I would think it's strange. Let me know why you think it's strange. I mean, we're only a month away from ending 2023. It could be that they're expecting the early takers that, given the higher price, they think that, there's going to be an X number of people that are going to cancel their reservations, that they're, we'll be able to get to 100,000 Cybertrucks sold that year. And at these prices, you'll be able to get it within a year. Maybe that's the calculation, is that people expect a lower price. In theory, if saying over the next few days, that equation doesn't change, and it's still a giant backlog and people aren't really canceling their orders, or the uptake's not there, then they'll change it. But they have the luxury of having the entirety of 2024 to make that decision. I think it's just more like they have it there as a placeholder. They're going to monitor demand for the next couple months. And then once they see where the product is trending from a price perspective and how quickly people are willing to take delivery based on these prices, then they'll change it. So I don't think it's strange. I just think that's their strategy. Ishan, thank you so much. Missed seeing you on the stream yesterday. It's all good. I had a blast with the folks from Now You Know. Huge shout out to them. Huge shout out to Noah Sargent and his team at our corporate streams that brought all that entire event live. I hope you enjoyed it. That was incredible. Noah, shout out to you and your team. The Now You Know guys, shout out to everybody there, everybody else there that was that had a YouTube channel, and it's just so cool talking with everybody. So but it was really fun being there, and now we're here. Thank you all very much. How long do you think Tesla can sell this truck without doing a refresh, just battery and chip updates? For a long time. I mean, if you look at how the truck looks versus the competition, I don't even know if we can say it has competition. It's just such a unique product, honestly. It's like its own market. It's a timeless design. I mean, it's like the DeLorean, right? The DeLorean always looks the same. And, they only made it for a few years or whatever. So, but it's always there. And you think about like the 911, the Porsche 911. It's had that same exact shape forever. That sort of beautiful teardrop shape with the round headlights at the front, and they make nips and tucks over the years, but it's basically the same. The Model S has kind of looked the same for the last 10 years. So I think the Cybertruck is going to lean heavy into that, and the refreshes are going to be much more small. I would expect it's going to be getting the battery density up, getting again maybe improving your chips, your computer, improving the trim, improving the material. They'll do it over time. But as far as the exterior goes, it's going to look brand new for a really, really, really long time. It's basically going to look, think about it this way. And I would love to hear everyone's opinions on this. This truck was unveiled 4 years ago, and it hasn't changed at all. And it still looks insane. I had the luxury of being able, when I was at the after party, people brought their Cybertrucks and they parked it there. And I saw a Cybertruck parked to other cars. And I looked at the Cybertruck and I said, this thing is insane. It just looked, how it looks versus other cars in real life, it completely redefines what a truck should look like, And again, I'm saying this as somebody who's a huge fan of the company, and I'm biased, obviously, but that's going to have a giant effect, and you don't want to mess with that. So I think we're going to have that for the same look for a really long time, and any refreshes are going to be minor. Over the next couple months, Tesla will see reservations punt to the rear-wheel drive, or cancel and buy Model X, Model Y Rivian Lightning. What are our predictions on the split? Yeah, I mean, I think there will definitely be people waiting for a cheaper version. I would be shocked if there weren't. I think that number is going to be significant, probably half or more. A huge winner from Tesla's Cybertruck, I think, is Rivian, because it's going to bring a lot more people into the world of electric vehicles that previously wouldn't have even thought about looking at an electric vehicle. And then they're going to be like, well, I kind of like what it does, but I wonder if there's a truck out there that kind of looks normal and more normal. And they'll be like, oh shit, Rivian's got something that looks pretty normal, and it's got pretty good specs. Not as quick as a Cybertruck, doesn't go as far range as an extended version, but it's a pretty good bang for your buck, especially significantly better than, say, an F-150 or something like that, Lightning. And so Rivian should benefit tremendously from that. And maybe there are some Cybertruck reservation holders that will move over to that. Model X and Model Y should have a net positive from the Cybertruck, in my opinion, because it's just going to bring more eyes on the brand that would have never looked at it before. And the rest of Tesla's lineup is going to, I think, benefit tremendously from just people looking at the Cybertruck. And what's crazier is that there's zero Tesla branding on the truck. It's just this triangle that looks insane. And that's the brand. It's just that, like that, what you're seeing back here. You can barely see it, I'm sure. But it's insane. And so net, it's going to drastically improve Tesla's ability to sell the rest of their lineup as if they needed any help. And then I think the Lightning will suffer the most from this entire thing. I don't think there's going to be anyone moving to the Lightning. And if anything, I believe Rivian's going to benefit tremendously from this. And I really want Rivian to do really well. So, and I think this will help them. Where are the windshield spares located? Great question. I have no idea. It might be on the wiper itself, if I were to guess. Let's see. What do you think about Tesla sandbagging certain specs for dual motor versus B? Significantly different horsepower and torque, but same towing capabilities? Yeah, I mean, the towing capabilities is more about the weight and the stopping power of the truck more than the pulling. Like the pulling, you could have put technically, when you look at the pull video from Tesla that they did versus the F350 that they released during the delivery event, that thing can pull 30, 40, 50,000 pounds. But the towing capability is all about stopping. And stopping is very much a momentum game. And it's much more about your brakes and doing so safely. So it's not really a sandbag of the specs. It's just the physics of what it means to tow something heavy. And it's more of a regulation for that. Do you think non-technical people are overlooking the importance of the switch from 12 volt to 48 volt, laying down the 48 volt foundation for the next generation vehicle? Yeah, I think for sure, 100% it's being overlooked. And that's one of those things where Tesla, what was very interesting about this event, and they've kind of done that before, especially with the Model Y, is that they were super low key about the event. They were just like, here's a Cybertruck. Okay, bye. That's what it felt like being there. You know, you get there, you get a tour of the factory. You're like, oh my God, this is amazing. Then you look at go to the delivery event. You're standing behind a bunch of people. You're seeing the back of their heads. Elon is poorly lit, standing there. Half of his face is like shadow. You can barely see him. And then 10 minutes later, they're like, hope you had a good time. Bye. And then we're like, oh, that was it? And then they didn't go into any of this stuff, right? They were super high, like very high level. This is what it can do. We're not even going to tell you the price at the unveil. Go look at it online. And I think that's a sign, in my opinion, I think they have that much confidence in the product that over time, you have to remember, again, even if their backlog is cut in half, the backlog for this thing is years. Even if it goes down by a quarter, it's years of backlog, right? So from that perspective, why would Tesla spend any time whatsoever trying to cater to the non-technical person who, 95% of the people that will be buying this vehicle are likely going to be non-technical. They're going to buy it because of how they're not, the early adopters will definitely understand everything about it. But over time, huge majority of people are non-technical. Why would they spend any time whatsoever catering to that group when that group is not going to be able to even buy one for years to come, right? So where I'm excited to see the 48 volt foundation being a game-changing thing will be with the Sandy Monroe teardowns, right? So when Monroe and Associates gets theirs and they tear it down, it's going to be game-changing. When more and more people watch the reviews from Haggerty and these driver enthusiast publications that get into why having such a quick steering ratio is such a game-changing thing when it comes to vehicles, their responsiveness, the fact that, lock to lock is 120 degrees. You barely have to move the steering wheel and the truck just maneuvers like super, super quick. The fact that for the robotaxi and all those other things, you're removing a lot of complexity and you're making it really, really safe to operate a self-driving vehicle. And that's why having something like the 48 volt foundation, which enables steer by wire, why that's such a huge deal. So I'll let those people do that, right? And so for now, it's kind of like it's a discovery process for the non-Tesla enthusiast, which will take months and years. But boy, I feel very strongly that this product, starting now, is gonna start. I don't know. It's gonna weasel its way into culture through music videos, through a lot of viral content on the internet. You're gonna have truck pulls. You're gonna have a Cybertruck pulling an F-250 up a hill. You're gonna have hopefully when I get mine, hopefully I get mine soon. You're gonna have content like mine going to truck shows and different places where let's say your typical truck lover goes to, and I show up with a Cybertruck and I talk to everybody about it, right? And it creates this sort of hype about the vehicle that maybe it's cool, right? It's universes collide. And that's why this thing is so interesting. And I think that will sort of lead way to that game-changing nature. It's like the technical game-changing nature will be felt by the consumer, not because of its technical craziness, but because of how the vehicle operates and the benefits of having less weight in the car, which gives you more range, so on and so forth, right? Very long question or answer to your question. I do apologize, but it's complex. There's a lot of stuff going on over here. Drive-by wire is not a problem to EU markets. It was cleared a few years ago. 48-volt low voltage rail might be. Pedestrian safety regulations versus sharp corners clearly is. Yeah, in places where they have that sharp corner stuff where, for pedestrians, Cybertruck is never going to see the light of day. So sorry, everybody, for that. Do you think Tesla could be front-running inflation by pricing high? They could decrease prices over the next years while prices overall are going up. 100%. I fully expect this to happen. If you look at the rest of their lineup, this is what they're doing. It's very obvious that Tesla's long-term goal is to lower the cost of their vehicles. And so I don't think they're front-running inflation. I just think they know they have the demand for any spec, and they're behind some of the 4680, their battery targets that they wanted to get to, that would allow them to get to those original prices or closer to them. And those two things coming together kind of created that price, but people are still going to buy it. So, yeah. Does anyone agree that a Betts slide out would turn this into a mega work truck? Yeah, it would, for sure. I'm thinking from a cost perspective. Oh, the one thing I forgot to tell you guys. Oh my God, let me show you something. I almost forgot. I did forget until you said something like that. You made that comment. So what I did is I made a chart where I was very curious to see if you look at the running cost from a fuel perspective of your typical F-150, just gas car, F-150 period, and you compare it to a Tesla Cybertruck, and you say, okay, how much is it going to cost to operate the truck over 200,000 miles, like say the life of the vehicle? What's really interesting is that at an average fuel cost per gallon for the F-150, about 336. Some of you are going to see a much higher number. Some of you are going to see a much lower number. I'm in Texas, so I see a lower number. But the national average is about 336. And you assume an average miles per gallon for an F-150 truck of 25 miles per gallon. And then you assume a watt hours per mile for the Tesla Cybertruck, which is basically the equivalent way of measuring efficiency for an electric car versus a gas car, of 410 watt hours per mile. I get to that number for those that are interested by assuming about a 300 mile usable range real world on a 123 kilowatt hour battery pack. And then if you assume 13 cents per kilowatt hour, which is the average cost of electricity in the United States, and if you drive it over 200,000 miles, the F-150, you'd pay about $27,000 of fuel over those 200,000 miles. And for the Cybertruck, you'd pay about $10,600 in electricity. And the delta is about $16,000 over $200,000, which is about the cost of the extended range. Now, the extended range will add more weight. It will make this less efficient, obviously. So it will theoretically take longer to pay off the extended range. But just to kind of put some math in perspective of the economies of a Cybertruck versus a traditional gas car, there's a lot of savings to be had from a gas, from a fuel perspective, but obviously the biggest challenge for Tesla right now is the starting price, right? So if the starting price can get down to a level that is palatable for, say, your traditional work person over time, then this equation goes haywire. It goes absolutely crazy. And then the fuel cost will basically pay for itself relatively quickly. And then the additional benefits of saying having power on site, being able to use the 3 plugs in the back, the two 110s or the 120s and the 240 volt plugs on the back of the truck, the fact that you have something that's never going to break and super, super tough. Perhaps you want to use it for off-roading as well. You want some dual capability or whatever. So that's another equation that I forgot to talk about. That's also important to think about long term, but right now this is not really going to be a huge variable. Again, I think this truck is much more a halo product right now, and then as they get the cost down, I believe this is going to be much more competitive in their realm. What happened to the onboard air compressor? I have not heard of it since the delivery event. From what I see, it doesn't exist. Maybe it looks like it's something that was pulled, and perhaps they'll add it to a future iteration. Sort of, we're talking about the refresh of the truck. The one question that I didn't have a chance to ask Sandy, somebody wanted me to ask him, which was a great question, is that, you have the air compressor, you have the air suspension. Couldn't you just feed the air from the air suspension to this air compressor and essentially use the onboard air compressor to do that? Potentially, but I'm wondering if Tesla's kind of like, yo, we got to get this truck out. Can we just stop with the craziness and just get it out, and then we'll figure out the air compressor at a later date? We'll see. We'll see if that's the case or not. So we'll go from there. No way that they're doing all that travel without supercharging. I mean, at a work site, if you're at a work site and you have a power on the work site, why not just charge the truck at the work site? Most of the charging for those trucks can just happen at the location. The only reason you would use the supercharger is if you're driving more than, say, 300 miles or 200 miles a day. And I don't know how common that is for, say, a work truck, like local work trucks. Now, long hauling, of course, that's a completely different story, and you're 100% right. But I'm curious to know what percentage of trucks would actually need to drive above a certain mileage per day that would require them to use the supercharger network. If you can charge on site, it's no different than plugging in your phone at your workplace. You install the level 2 charger, which is significantly cheaper than installing a supercharger, will pay for itself relatively quickly. So a couple more questions here. That was funny. If you had to give it your best guess, when do you get your Cybertruck? So according to the unofficial Cybertruck tracker of figuring out where you are in line, I'm like 115,000 in. So, which is a lot closer to being first in line than a lot of people, thankfully. But I think it depends on a few things. I think Tesla's going to prioritize proximity to Austin. So fortunately, I'm in the area. So that's going to help me get further in front of the line. And then what trim you go for. And this is where I'm split, right? Because if I go with a dual motor, I'm going to have to wait longer. But if I go with the Cyberbeast, I'm going to be able to get it sooner. But the Cyberbeast is so expensive. It's so expensive. I mean, and especially, I'm a data guy, right? I'm a data guy, and I was looking at that chart that I was showing you before. And this is kind of like, this is where my conundrum is like, okay, I'm having this this incredible game-changing vehicle that's going to blow everyone's mind. But when we're talking about how much range you get for the price, it's among some of the worst. 320 miles of range for $100,000 is significantly below average for what you would expect for that price point. And so like you're exchanging that for performance and just getting it sooner, right? And so what I'm trying to rationalize and saying, I'm trying to rationalize by saying, well, but if you do get the Cyberbeast early, you're able to do a ton of incredible content with it. That's going to be super, super awesome for people to see. And that's going to generate income, which will pay for the Cyberbeast, hopefully within a few months to a few years. Who knows how quickly that could happen. And so that's my rationalization. It's like, well, as long as I'm successful with YouTube, I could get the Cyberbeast early and pay for it early. But then I'm like, yeah, but it's still like, damn, dude, like, do you really need a Cyberbeast? And so I'm fighting with that. And my wife initially said, get the Cyberbeast. And then when she learned it's less range than the dual motor, she's like, no, you shouldn't get the Cyberbeast, get the dual motor. And I just wish she just kept the original. Just keep the original one, man. So we'll see. But when I get it, yeah, it depends on those two trims. If I were to guess Cybertruck or Cyberbeast, might be able to get it middle. So let's say early to middle next year, if I'm being super optimistic. Probably later, honestly. And if it's a dual motor, I probably wouldn't get it until 2025, which for me, it happens when it happens, right? I'm not going to be super bummed if I have to wait a long time. It is what it is. So, yeah. Question. So the range extender is a fixture, not like a battery bank. You can load in and out as needed. Correct. So as far as the extender goes, you can see in the picture here, they'll install it at the factory because it's probably going to be 1,000 pounds, and it's adding a significant amount of miles, 130 miles. So it'll be something that gets installed at the factory. You'll still have about 2/3 of the bed as usable space. You'll have sort of this undercarriage as well here. You'll have sort of like a sub trunk, if you want to call it, once you raise that panel. But you'll have to have it installed at the factory. It's my guess is, I don't know if they'll have like rental, like you might be able to rent it maybe if they'll come out with something like that, like say, hey, you want to use the range extender for a long haul trip, we'll rent it out for, I don't know, $1,000 a month or $500 a month or whatever. Maybe you can go to your nearest Tesla location if they make that available, and they'll just drop it into your truck, but that's going to require a lot of equipment for them to enable to do that, for them to be able to do that. So they might just force you to buy it and keep it as a permanent fixture, but it is removable. It is removable in theory because they added it, so they should be able to remove it. So, but it will be part of the car. Let's just say it that way. That's a very good question. Okay, let's see. What else we got? Do you believe the rumored Cybervan will be the next vehicle using the styling and processes, including stainless steel, next? I do not think. Yeah, the Cybervan is an interesting one because I was playing with the idea that they would have gotten a lot of savings from not having a paint shop, and clearly that's going to be the case with the Cybertruck. But the new processes they've had to come up with for the Cybertruck, we see it in the price. And so for the Cybervan to be, let's say, more affordable, they won't have the stainless steel. So it really depends on what market they're trying to go with. A van that's stainless steel to me seems like a weird idea because the truck is stainless steel because of the toughness. It like gives it that freaking bulletproof, right? It's bulletproof, it's tough, it's never going to break down, it's going to kick your ass. A van doesn't exude that. Do you really need a van to like kick your ass? No, you need a van to like carry a bunch of stuff. And so my guess would be that the Cybervan is going to be, they're going to go for extreme lightness and extreme cost effectiveness. So they'll probably use, if I were to guess, complete guess, they'll probably use the drivetrains from, say, the compact car or even the Model 3, and they'll have a much more traditional style, maybe closer to like maybe the semi-ish, like a mini semi, Tesla semi. And and it probably won't put a lot of the new technology in the Cybertruck. So that's I think where they're going. I could be wrong, of course. Wouldn't the Cyberbeast increase the numbers of the channel enough to pay for itself in clicks? Yes. That's my hope, right? And so that's how I'm trying to rationalize it for the Cyberbeast. Like if I get the Cyberbeast, theoretically I should be able to make content much sooner, and theoretically should be able to pay for itself at some point. But again, it's still an expensive vehicle. So, yeah, I don't know. You must stop for hours to charge is another problem. So I think this is in discussion with charging. This is a huge misconception, with all due respect, Michael. You do not need to stop for hours to charge. With Tesla specifically, with the supercharger network, especially if it's a version 4 supercharger location, you can charge from 15 to 85% with the Cybertruck, which is about, I'd call it 240 to 280 miles of range in about 15 minutes. So for every 15 minutes of stop time, you get 3 hours of driving. And so that's just not, that's not applicable to the supercharger network. Now, if you're charging on site, that's likely correct. But if you're already on site and the truck's not really moving, then in theory, it can just charge while it just waits there, right? Or you're just kind of on the site. You don't have to move the truck. You're just loading and unloading stuff from the truck. So just a heads up there, because that's a common one that's out there that says you have to stop for hours to charge for an electric vehicle. At least for a Tesla. For a Tesla, that's just not true. It's not the case. With all due respect. Okay. Are you shocked or no news about air condition to the truck bed? I don't. Was that planned? I don't even think that if that was planned or not. I mean, why would you want air conditioning in the truck bed? You want to sleep in it with a tonneau cover? Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't even thinking about that. I think it would have been nice to have, but if it doesn't have air conditioning in the truck bed, I'm not really. There's nothing. I'm very doesn't change my thought process on it. I think that the market for that is so tiny that if that is really like a purchasing decision, then yeah. Okay. Let's see if we can do a couple more, and then we'll let you go for the weekend so you can go enjoy your time. Get you away from some Cybertruck content. Cool. Okay, actually, I think we'll end it there because I think we hit a lot of. I'm reading some of the questions. I think we've hit a lot of the same stuff. Let's do this one. What was your favorite part of the Cybertruck festivities? Great community. Yeah, I mean, by far was a community. Being there, meeting everybody in person, meeting all the other YouTubers, getting to hang out with Sandy Monroe a lot. I really want to thank Sandy and his team for really just giving me the time with him, and just great stuff. I have a ton of content with Sandy, just a freaking American legend, as I like to call him, and a lot of people call him that as well. So yeah, my favorite part was just being around a lot of very smart, kind, warm people that are all kind of like, it's funny because the Tesla cult, they call it Tesla cult. They say the Tesla cult is like a thing where all these cultists are running around. And what's very interesting about the community that is Tesla is that there's actually a lot of objective people that look at everything very like for what it is. And I think the thing that gets missed is that, and this is where I don't think Tesla gets its due at all, and especially in the legacy media, is it that people are just obsessed with a story for the sake of being obsessed? Or is it that the story is just so unique and so much more different than everything else and so much better in a lot of ways that's what attracts people to the story? I'll let you guys decide, right? I'll let y'all decide. That's not for me to decide. That's for everybody else to decide. So being surrounded by a lot of those kinds of people is very cool. It's just, you can just nerd out on technology and the future, and a lot of camaraderie, a lot of warmth. It's just great and very, very accepting and wholesome, and they bring everybody in, and yeah, it's super, super cool. And being part of it as somebody who creates content, and then people are like, hey, your videos are awesome and stuff. It's always so humbling, and it's super, super cool. And it's not just a number on a screen or just like breakfast pizza. That's a real person. And I'm assuming they love breakfast pizza. But at these places, you get to meet those people in person. You get to shake their hand and take a picture and all that stuff. And that's very humbling. So super, super cool. Okay, we'll just end it right here. Couch Investor, shout out Couch Investor. Make sure you go check them out. Question, not really a question. Just thank you for all the coverage on the Cybertruck. Have a great weekend, all. Again, a huge shout out to the crew at Now You Know with Zach and Jesse for freaking marathoning that event, that post-delivery event and the pre-delivery event. Huge shout out to Noah Sargent at Corporate Streams and his entire team for bringing the footage from that event. I can't tell you how incredible of a technical feat that was. The amount of equipment and rigging that they had to do for that event was absolutely insane. So a huge shout out to Noah and his team. And of course, thank you to everybody that was there to watch the show. Thank you to all the people that watch this channel on the daily. Thank you to everybody in the comments. As always, I love you guys so much. I really do. I always appreciate your support. And I hope you have a fantastic, fantastic weekend. Go watch some Cybertruck content because I know you want to. Take it easy, everybody. Love you very much. Bye-bye.